The movie opens in Florida. One night, a man named Mickey Duca takes the youthful Bobby Saint to a weapons trade. The transaction is mediated by Otto Krieg, who speaks with an accent due to his mastery of 6 languages. Suddenly, when the FBI unexpectedly breaks into the scene, Otto becomes upset and takes out a revolver. The cops return fire, killing everyone except Mickey, who is scared when he sees Bobby's body. The bodies are removed, but Otto Krieg rises up unhurt and states flatly that he despises the undercover jobs he's always done. Arnold Krieg is actually Frank Castle, a recently retired FBI agent. This was his final case, and he was saddened by the young man's death. The police are relieved when they learn the identity of the young man, Robert Saint, son of criminal leader Howard Saint. When the news reaches the Saint family, Johnny, the second son, requests Mickey's release. The Saints drag Mickey to a club and beat him. He tells Quentin Glass that Bobby went to the meeting of his own free will and that Otto Krieg, the man behind the agreement, is no longer alive. Howard is still dissatisfied and kills another man in front of Mickey, who was supposed to be accountable for his son. Meanwhile, Frank rejoins his family, which includes his attractive wife Maria and their small son. Frank is aware that he has been ignoring them and pushing them to move frequently, but he swears that London will be the last location they will have to relocate to. But first, they'll travel to Puerto Rico for a family reunion. Howard Saint goes to confirm his son's body, and when the police refuse to cooperate, he instructs his own men to find out whatever they can about Arnold Krieg. Quentin informs Howard at his son's burial that Krieg was a forgery and that his real name is Frank Castle. Howard orders his death, but his wife, Livia, insists that the entire family perish. Howard accepts, while Johnny decides to join the other assassins in Puerto Rico. The assassins show up just in time for another family beach celebration. Frank and his father have gone inside to look at some customized firearms. At a certain point, they can hear gunfire. Despite their best efforts, they are unable to save anyone. The assassins massacre the family, and while Maria and her son escape in an SUV and drive away, the assassins finally catch up with them and run them over on a pier. Frank arrives too late because he is distracted by a knife battle with one of the goons. When the assassins reappear, Johnny beats and shoots Frank. Quentin then sets fire to the place, and they assume Frank is dead, not realizing that the explosion blew Frank into the water. They return to the Saints and Sinners Club, where they toast a score settled, and Howard presents Livia with a pair of diamond earrings to commemorate the occasion. Quentin dances with Livia while Howard watches, and when they are alone, Livia removes her dress for Howard. In the next scene, Candelaria, a friend of the Castle family, saves Frank. Candelaria returns Frank to the Castle house once he is recovered. Frank takes up the pistols his father had been showing him, as well as a t-shirt with a skull emblem given to him by his son. He returns to America, filled with rage, prepared to get his revenge. He returns to Tampa and moves into a rundown apartment complex, where he begins customizing his weaponry, his apartment, and his car. Frank's actions pique the curiosity of his buddies, including the opera and food-obsessed overweight Bumpo, the pierced-covered lean video gamer Spacker Dave, and the gorgeous Joan, who works as a waitress and is friends with Bumpo and Dave. Frank drives away in his automobile one evening. He kidnaps Mickey and uses a blowtorch, steak, and popsicle to fool him into telling him everything he knows about the Saints. Mickey begins screaming, frightening Frank's neighbors. Mickey eventually gives in, telling him that Howard Saint is controlled by 2 Cubans, the Toro brothers, who control all gambling and prostitutes along the Gulf Coast. They hand over the cash to Howard, who takes it to his bank in the Cayman Islands and washes it. Frank frees Mickey, who realizes he was never truly injured and freely talks about the Saints, whom he claims he despises. Mickey has been coerced into their service. Frank begins following the family and photographing them after learning about their schedule and their closest buddy, Quentin Glass. Howard's golf schedule, Livia's movie nights, Johnny's women and cars lifestyle, and Quentin's covert homosexual trysts are all revealed to him. After that, he drags his own gravestone from the cemetery and places it in Howard's golfing area, removing the date of his death. Meanwhile, Frank confronts his former police colleagues in front of several reporters, wondering why, after 5 months, no one has been arrested for his family's killing. When he discovers that the police are too terrified to confront the Saints, Frank takes matters into his own hands. He sneaks into the Saints' bank, past 2 guards, and into the vault. He knocks one man out and directs 2 others to count cash in order to load a suitcase with money. The rest he throws out the window, attracting a boisterous mob eager to capture the money. Frank, clad in a long black coat and a skull t-shirt, confronts and kills 2 of Saint's armed guards before fleeing into the throng. The bank event is covered by Tampa television news, and Frank is identified. Bumpo and Dave look up Frank's background and uncover his resume on the internet. Meanwhile, Howard is enraged by the news and receives a warning from the Toro brothers that if they continue to lose money, they will change banks. Back in Frank's apartment, an enraged ex-boyfriend bangs on Joan's door, demanding entry. Bumpo and Spacker are terrified, but Frank quickly disarms the man and dispatches him. Joan praises him and apologizes for what happened to his family. Frank begins his vengeance by breaking into Livia's car and calling Quentin on her phone, using a gadget to disguise his voice. He blackmails Quentin Glass for $5,000, claiming to have images Mr. Saint would not want to see, and invites Glass to a hotel. Frank gets a ticket for illegally parking Livia's car near the same hotel. Howard, who has been unsuccessful in his search for Quentin, is informed by Mickey that the man is staying at the Winston Hotel. He feels suspicious after observing Livia and Quentin conversing and joking together. However, Quentin claims he was not at the hotel. The next day, while Frank is eating at Joan's diner, a man walks in with a guitar case. They exchange skeptical looks before the newcomer, Harry Heck, begins singing a Johnny Cash-style ballad. Harry claims to have written it for Frank and that it will be performed at his death. Frank flees the cafe and is pursued by Heck, who is armed with a gun. Special steel panels placed in Frank's ancient Pontiac GTO save him, yet he still crashes. Eventually, Frank kills Heck after a brief standoff. Johnny discovers a Claymore bomb with the placard "Front toward enemy" on a cigarette speedboat docked at a wharf. Frank is stationed on an overlooking hill, and Johnny leaps off the boat just as it explodes. Howard becomes furious and starts tossing things about, and the Cubans storm into his office. Both parties argue. Howard claims they've had a nice working partnership, but the business was uninsured, so he refuses to compensate their losses. He cautions the brothers before they depart that if they don't like it, he has more guns than they do. Howard instructs Quentin to dial the Russian. Dave requests Frank's assistance because Joan's angry ex-boyfriend has returned. He initially slams the door on him but reopens it seconds later and enters the apartment, where Joan and Bumpo are preparing a meal. They welcome him to the table, and after professing their thanks, they eat. After that, Dave and Bumpo leave for dessert, and Joan tries to convince Frank to move on with his life by approaching him for a kiss. He informs her that he is not what he is searching for and leaves. Joan goes to assist in the preparation of the iced Florentine dessert and dances to opera music. Frank is opening a bottle to have a drink alone in his apartment when a huge, blonde stranger arrives out of nowhere. The struggle between Frank and the Russian is drowned out by the music. Frank gets severely beaten by his seemingly invincible adversary. Joan and the others are terrified when the conflict spills into their flat. Frank throws a pot of boiling water in the Russian's face and, stunned, pulls himself and the man downstairs. Frank can move, but the enormous man is immobile, his neck shattered. Frank briefly stands up but collapses due to his own injuries. The three neighbors attempt to save Frank and treat his wounds. Meanwhile, 4 of Howard's hitmen discover the body of the Russian and make their way upstairs. Joan and Frank take refuge in a secret compartment beneath the floor, while Spacker and Bumpo deal with the men. Quentin interrogates the two and tortures Dave, mercilessly removing all of his piercings with pliers. However, Dave refuses to reveal where Frank is. Quentin finally believes him and departs, leaving one of his men to report if Frank returns. Johnny contacts his father to inform him that the Russian has died and Castle has gone missing. Quentin has gone somewhere else. Livia informs Howard that she will be out till 10 p.m. It is her Thursday movie night. When Frank regains consciousness, he kills the guard with a paper cutter blade and then questions Dave about why he would assist him. Dave responds since they are neighbors and family members. To Joan's chagrin, Bumpo transports him to the hospital while Frank prepares his weapons. Frank also prepares a declaration of intent, in which he recalls his old drill sergeant's slogan, "If you want peace, prepare for war," and argues that the justice he seeks is punitive rather than criminal. Joan inquires how he differs from the Saints, to which Frank responds that they have something to lose. Joan learns that being slain in battle was part of Frank's plan. Frank enters Livia's car once more and takes her diamond earrings from her handbag. He arranges a new blackmail meeting with Quentin. According to Frank's directions, Mickey shows Howard the ticket on Livia's car at the Winston Hotel. Howard recalls that Quentin was also present at the moment, and he proceeds cautiously to Quentin's house. Meanwhile, Frank breaks into Quentin's mansion as he is leaving. Later, Howard enters and discovers Livia's earring on Quentin's bed. When Quentin returns, Howard surprises him by greeting him on the stairs. Howard tells him of Jim Bowie of Alamo fame accusing someone else of cheating by breaking into their home, shifting their furniture, and tossing a knife in the middle of the people involved. He adjusts Quentin's furniture and throws a knife on the coffee table while he speaks. Quentin correctly states that he never took a dime from Howard. Howard swipes Quentin with the knife when he refuses to pick it up. Howard stabs Quentin to death after ranting about how he treated him like his brother. Meanwhile, Frank drives away. When Livia gets home, She notices Howard dumping her belongings on the floor. He informs her that he is aware of her and Quentin and that she was with his best friend. She tells him that Quentin was gay after finding his body by the entryway and being shown the parking ticket by the Winston Hotel. Howard dismisses her, slapping her and hauling her out to the car. Before they get to the bridge overpass, he reminisces about their past and her previous life as a prostitute. He hurls her over the railing, where she is promptly plowed over by a train. Howard goes to his club and offers a prize to the person who kills Frank. When Johnny is alone in his office, he inquires about Quentin and Livia, but his father flatly lies to him. Frank prepares for a fight in the woods. He carries a sawed-off shotgun, a bow and arrows, an M16 with a grenade launcher, his father's modified 1911 Colt .45s, a bulletproof vest, and the Skull T. In the next scenes, he murders Howard's bodyguards before planting bombs on multiple cars and breaking into the club. One of the males demands champagne from upstairs by activating a microphone button. Frank detonates a bomb in the bucket and summons the dumbwaiter. When the bomb detonates, Frank rushes in, shooting everybody who is still alive. In addition, Frank fires a few point-blank rounds into his vest. He traps and injures Johnny and forces him to grasp onto a mine with a dead man switch. Then he rushes outside and confronts Howard, informing him that he murdered both of his sons. Johnny cries from behind the structure as the bomb explodes. The two men stand off cowboy style. Frank wins the draw, wounds Howard, and shows him the photos of Quentin's affair as well as Livia's other earring. Frank mocks Howard, claiming that he forced the man to murder his best friend and wife. Then he straps Howard's feet to the rear of a car and drives it through the parking lot, detonating the bombs he planted earlier. As Howard burns to death, the flames from the sky form the shape of a skull. Back at home, Frank is about to commit suicide by shooting himself when he is stopped by a flashback to a blonde woman named Marie. He resolves to forge a new route and depart. When he sees Joan, he informs her that she is correct. Wonderful memories can save a life. He walks away, assuring her he has a present for all three of them. When Dave is released from the hospital, they discover wads of cash left for them. A Frank voiceover states, high on a bridge, that the old Frank Castle is dead and that now he is called the Punisher. That's all from the video. Thanks for watching.